I'm Brendan Woods, Public Defender of Alameda County. And this episode of Ear Hustle contains explicit language. Please be advised this may not be for every listener.
Can you tell me the first time you felt like you dressed like a gang member and tell me what you were wearing and what it felt like?
I remember I was in elementary school, and I came to school. I had a pair of khakis, a white T-shirt, and a pair of Crocasacks. And I had a blue rag in my back pocket.
So, Nigel, do you remember any of this?
No.
No?
I don't. The only thing I remember is Crocasacks. It was the first time I heard the word Crocasacks. But I don't know who this is.
Okay, so I did pull one out of the box.
It sounds like it was done on the phone.
It was definitely
So is it Larry Davis?
Phone. It's Larry Davis.
The phone gave it away.
We interviewed him for the book.
Wow.
And we never put that into the book.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and I always kept him in mind, like, we'll put his story out there one day.
That Crocasack thing.
Crocasack.
They're like those flat canvas shoes, right?
They're flat canvas shoes, but the top of it is like, I don't want to say potato sack material, but it's like that woven type material, you know. We looked at them just recently. They was like $7 back in the day.
Yeah.
But now they like $200.
What?
I mean, everybody had, like I said, they was a cheap shoe out of Kmart.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at a picture right now.
The brown ones, the blue ones, the beige ones. Vintage gang attire.
Okay, I'm afraid we're getting very far away from Larry. But
yes.
It tells you how interesting the Crocasack is. But we should tell listeners why you're pulling this mystery tape out of our archives.
Yes, this season, season 13, an idea came up that Nigel and I should do episodes that we don't tell each other about.
Exactly.
So,
keeping it fresh.
Keeping it fresh, so it'll be a surprise. As soon as we get in the studio, then we'll lay it out.
I love this idea. Do you think it's something we can continue next season?
Oh, yeah. And so Larry, you know, we interviewed him for the book like 4 years ago, and I always kept his story in my mind. For me, I know our episodes get played in juvenile hall, so it's my way of saying, hey, you can change, don't give up, and don't give in to this type of shit, you know? So today, for my mystery episode, the return of Larry Davis.
Okay, I am so into this, Earlonne. I'm glad you brought him up again, and I remember that interview. We really need to do him a solid. I'm Nigel Poor.
And I'm Earlonne Woods, and this is Ear Hustle from PRX's Radiotopia. So, Nige, when I was growing up in the gang world, Larry was like a legend, especially in the prisons.
Did you actually know him, or did you just know
I knew
of
him.
Yeah.
Because he was in prison when I was growing up, you know. So I represented a gang, which is, you know, on the east side of Los Angeles. It was called the East Coast Crips. And Larry, he was probably one of the most known members from the gang. He was like real like prison gang OG, you know what I'm saying? Like, he had a sentence of 180 years to life, which is why it was like a big deal and a surprise to a lot of people when this happened a few months ago. Hold on, I gotta show it to you. Yo in there. Good to see you out, baby boy.
Looking good, man.
Hey, man, I'm chilling, baby.
So this is a video of him getting out of prison, not wearing Crocasacks.
No, he's wearing Pumas.
Pumas.
He got on like a beige Puma velour type suit.
Little round glasses, like intelligentsia glasses.
Yes, and he has on some suede Pumas.
And all he's carrying is a white garbage bag, like a medium-sized one, and a black folder. That's it.
All his worldly possessions is in there.
Wow. After how many years in prison?
27 years. Yeah, so I met him at the gate at Solano Prison. I had Antoine with me. And of course, after all the hugs, elation, and happiness, we got in the car and headed to breakfast.
Of course you did.
It's what you do, you know.
Where'd you go?
He wanted to go to IHOP.
Okay.
My name is Larry Davis. I just did 27 years for 5 counts of robbery. I just was released this morning at 9:30. Was treated to IHOP at 10:30. Enjoyed a breakfast of turkey sausages, pancakes, scrambled eggs, and some hash browns and orange juice. And they're delicious.
So ever since I picked Larry up at the gate, I've been going down to see him in Southern Cal or tapping in with him over the phone, talking to him about his story.
Yeah.
And, of course, he's a good friend and a very interesting guy, and I do want to see him succeed.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about you, Earlonne, is you really invest in your friends, so it doesn't surprise me.
And I'm going to ask you this question that Nigel definitely asked you. Do you recall how your mom smelled?
Yes, man. She smelled like Jamie 08. My mother loved drinking Jamie 08, man.
What was the name of it?
Jamie 08. That's a bourbon. She stayed intoxicated, man, and I never really understood why. One day I just asked her what was her experience like as a child. She said that growing up, she experienced racism most of her life in Alabama. She grew up in the early 40s. She always wanted to be a teacher, but she wasn't able to go to school because they had to pick cotton, and she had to tend to other people's homes and look after other people's kids. She was cheated out of a childhood upbringing. She met my father, and my father courted her, convinced her to come to California, and she had 4 children, but she never wanted any. And my father left her as a young lady in California, and she became bitter. I didn't have a father growing up, man, and so I didn't know how to navigate through society norms. I was antisocial, man. I just was fear of being exposed, man, as a failure. Well, that's how I felt, man. So my whole life, I've been living in fear.
I think a lot of guys feel like that they didn't have a great upbringing or didn't have parents around or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways that you handle it is by being extra tough on the outside.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's what Larry did.
When I became a part of the gang, I was already the king of my elementary school.
Hold on 1 second. I got. So when everybody grow up, there's always a king of the school.
I was the king.
Can you tell us what is the king of the school?
So the king of the school is when can't nobody at the school whoop you. Everybody at the school is scared of you. When you walk around, it's like Moses spreaded the sea. You always had a king of some school. The king of the school at Russell Elementary School was Duck from 8-9. King of the school that went to 92nd was Leandro. King of the school at Marimani, which was Michael Allen and James Allen.
Amazing he remembers all those names, right?
I could not remember who was the king of my elementary school. It wasn't me. I didn't have enough fights,
But he remembers them.
Did y'all have a king of the school, Nigel?
I remember bullies. That's what I would have called them, bullies. Yeah, but I don't remember their names.
That was like, I'm telling you, it was like the world champ, like the boxing champ at the school. Everybody knew the king.
But am I wrong to say it was a bully?
No, not necessarily a bully. It's just somebody that people couldn't beat up.
Okay.
I went to Lillian Elementary School, and I was the king of my school. And everybody know that is the absolute truth. I'm not boasting about it, but I'm telling you, I fought hard to get that title.
But it's just crazy how when you're young, that was like the title to have. That was like the president title of the United States.
That's right.
King of the school.
But, Larry started young, and this was the beginning, basically, of his gang activity and, how gang life starts. He attracted the attention of the local Crips chapter, and when you join the gang, you got to prove you down.
This is an odd story, right? So one of the dudes in my neighborhood, right, his name was Jeff, and he was always breaking into people's houses. I worked for this lady that was a ice cream truck driver. And so she let me get on the truck with her and sell ice cream. And so one day Jeff came by, he said, man, look, let's go on and break in this lady's house and get some ice cream. Growing up, poor, hungry, and I'm thinking this is a good idea, man. I'm finna get me something to eat, right? Not knowing that the lady takes the ice cream out of the truck and put it in the freezer. I'm thinking the ice cream stays in the truck, right? So we broke in the garage, went in the truck. There's no ice cream in the truck. He said, it's in the refrigerator, man. We got to go in the refrigerator and get it. So he sent me through the window. So when I go in the window, she right there looking at me, man. And so she started hollering. I run out the back door. And so she knew who I was. Police came, got me, arrested me for burglary.
He robbed a woman who was caring for him and trying to give him a better life by giving him a job.
Mm-hmm.
And he robbed her.
Mm-hmm. He was trying to rob her.
Larry, I'm very fond of you, but man, that's cold.
So that was one of the first things I did to prove myself being part of this gang culture. That was a part of my initiation into becoming a part of their circle.
Okay, he took responsibility at least. He said he didn't force him.
But I mean, he had to prove his, I'm down.
I guess, yeah, you got to prove yourself.
I'll bite the hand that feeds me.
Yeah, that's what he's proving, right?
And when you were a kid, what did you think gangs were?
I thought gangs were a group of individuals, man, that demanded respect. And I thought they was manly. I thought they was courageous, brave. I thought they was protectors of the neighborhood. I thought they was the best thing ever, man, in life.
So, Earlonne, I wonder if part of the reason you're interested in Larry is that you kind of relate to some of this, right? Like, I mean, you grew up around gangs too. And I wonder if you looked up to guys like this. Like, what are your memories of them?
I remember some of my first memories of seeing gang members. They weren't called the East Coast Crips then. At the time, they were called the Shack Boy Crips. And they were just like some cool older dudes, We was young, we was kids,
Like how old were they?
They was probably like 19, 18, something like that. And we was probably like 7. And everybody used to hang out in the elementary during the summertime because they gave out free lunches, summer lunch program.
Right.
And that's where you would see a lot of them. They'd just be up there getting a free lunch.
But did you realize that's why they were there getting a free lunch?
No, I mean, it was a hangout. They'd be sitting there bumping their music, be it Parliaments, be it Zap, right? You just hung out. You didn't really like hang with them, but you hung out. They was over there doing them, shooting dice.
What were they wearing?
Most of them, the color of my neighborhood was blue, the Crips. And they'll have on like either khaki suits, the Crocasacks, of course. Some wore Stacey Adams. Some wore the brim hat. Most had golf hats. Do you remember the little suede hats with the little golf clubs? The hair nets over their hair. Some of them that had perms would have big rollers in their hair. It was a trip.
Were there any women with them or girls?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, they all be sitting around dancing, doing their shit. And, Larry, he would have been one of them cats that was in that group down. They're gambling and listening to Parliaments, Funkadelic, the whole giddy up,
Yeah, man, I got tattoos behind my earlobes, man, no fears, no tears. And that's how I felt, I was prepared to die. But in actuality, I was in fear of a lot of things, man. I was in fear of not being accepted. I was in fear of failure. I was in fear of being exposed as an unintelligent person. I was fearful of my lack of effort being exposed. I just wasn't a confident person.
That's what Larry was feeling on the inside, but you got to keep that type of shit to yourself. You don't want everybody to, know what you got going on inside you, because as far as Larry was concerned, being a gang member, you had to be hard, tough, like you don't give a fuck.
So that makes me assume that a lot of these guys are feeling the same thing.
It's just like, when we go into those juvenile halls, everybody here is playing this role, and everybody know this role. For Larry, the gangs gave him confidence. It boosted him up so he can, hide through that.
I mean, basically a place to belong, right?
Yeah, a place to belong, but also a sense of power, importance. I mean, that's what the Crips gave to guys like Larry.
The discrimination, the rejection, the prejudice, I've experienced all the time. And so As a Crip, all of that stuff went out the window. You became your own boss. You established your own rules. You was lawless, so you didn't have to fit into society norms. And that's the power that I felt being a Crip, opposed to being a citizen in the United States. Being a citizen at the time was not a feeling that I liked, because being black was always looked down upon, and being a Crip was kind of separate from being black. Now I have an identity. I'm no longer Larry Davis. I'm Lala from East Coast. So now when I go anywhere, I represent not just myself, I represent a group of individuals that has a reputation for being pretty vicious.
It's always so interesting to me how much a name changes somebody. You know, like how much power that has. Like Lala, it doesn't. Isn't someone's sister go by Lala?
My sister.
Yeah, exactly. To me, it has like a kind of a softness to it.
Right.
But you realize, like for him, that it came with a lot of other kinds of adjectives, and probably helped him become this other person.
Definitely. I mean, his name rung bells. You know, people knew his name from far around.
He was saying, you know, feeling like a black man is looked down on. It was really rough for him. And then he became part of this gang, and that changed. So I don't know a lot about the history of the gang. So I'm curious, do you think that issue was actually part of the founding of the Crips?
Well, yeah. You know, in the beginning, before all the infighting started, it was more about protecting the neighborhood. Like, they had groups called the Businessmen, the Slawsons. You know, they had stuff like where these individuals were more the protectors.
Protected people from other gangs or the cops or...
Yeah, you know, for one, police brutality, a perceived threat of white people discriminating. Many blacks perceive that white folks were out to get us. And the stories that our parents told us about living in the South helped to heighten those fears, you know. Plus, there were black-on-black crimes from adjacent neighborhoods.
Right, so it started out as this righteous thing.
Yeah, and the Crips and the Bloods, they kind of grew out of that protecting philosophy. But then it got twisted, and it became more about power and controlling territories. And then the drugs came in, the guns came in. And
testosterone.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and a lot of young testosterone.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's the thing, like these stories and this one already, when from the age I am now, it's crazy to me. I mean, they are kids. Yeah.
And things between these rival street gangs got really out of control. And Larry's right in the middle of all of that.
And so we was at wars with these different gang adversaries, and, you know, people getting shot all the time. It was an understanding that at some point we were going to die. You just didn't know when. And so what interrupted a lot of that stuff for many of us was going to jail, going to prison.
It sounds like Larry's saying going to prison is almost like a respite. It's almost like a break.
Basically, that is what he's saying. But when Larry first got to prison when he was 18, he thought he was tough.
Yeah. I hate 18. This kind of story. I hate this. It's a real wake up, right?
Yeah, you know, he thought he was still the king of the school. But now he was in college.
Yeah.
I was a pretty wild youngster growing up, but my wildness was on the levels of youth authority. I hadn't experienced prison. So when I got to the prison system, I thought I was a pretty tough dude. But when I actually was placed in Folsom State Penitentiary, I was a baby. You know, I instantly recognized that the moment that I got there. I was 19, but I was a baby compared to the older adults that was at the prison. I was scared to death, to be exact. So I had told myself that I wasn't going to be a victim of no one. And so whatever I had to do to not to be a victim, I was willing to do it.
This is Folsom Prison back in the early 80s. You know, guys are walking around with bone crushers, and that is not your average knife. These back in the day knives were penitentiary steel.
Oof.
Probably about 12 inches long, maybe 13. And that's all blades. That ain't even the handle.
How the hell do you hide a bone crusher?
Yeah. Some people,
No.
yes. Yes.
Wow.
Some people hoop them, as they say.
No way.
Keister them.
They must have to walk like this. Like, don't cut me.
I mean, but that was, people carried knives at all times. And if they wasn't carry them, they was nearby them. You got gang shit, you got drug trades, you got fights behind gambling, fights behind people not paying their debts, people disrespecting. And one of the things that can start all that shit is just people being bored. The monotony of prison.
Yeah.
Things were popping up all the time.
I'm trying to find the words to describe it, man. It was chaotic. It was
One of your favorite words is barbaric.
It was barbaric, man. It wasn't a good place for a human being. I was scared to death, man. And the fear that I had was that I was too young to be there. Prison is about masking and disguising. You have to put on a different mask every day. You have to determine if you're going to be a tough guy today, or you want to be a person that's friendly or relatable, or a person that want to go out and work out. Everybody's watching you, even when you don't think that they are, because people are seeking out weakness. And wherever they can spot it, they're going to capitalize off of it in some kind of capacity. No, it's tiresome, man. It's mentally draining.
And eventually, he got out of prison, went right back to the neighborhood, and got even deeper into the Crips, deeper into being a menace to the community,
Mm-hmm.
Now, you remember, Lala been dealing with the Crips since he was 10 years old. So he's known, he's respected. Then in 1996, he ended up going back in for a robbery charge. And because of his previous charges, Larry got sentenced to 180 years to life under California 3 strikes law. And of course, he's up there in the ranks now, so when he goes back to prison, his rank follows him. And when you're that high up, people are trying to get you out the way.
So you're a target.
Definitely.
In 2004, I was in Calipatch State Prison, and I got locked up for possession of a knife. And some Crips told on me. And that was a moment of epiphany in my life to where I just knew that I was in over my head. That the very people that I represent was the very people betraying me.
And how did you take that, though?
It was heartbreaking.
That's a shit lesson to learn.
When you're in those type of positions, you always know that there's going to be opposing individuals. Maybe it could be from a decision you made. Maybe it could be you made a decision against them. Maybe somebody just wants your position. Or maybe when you hit that yard, the person that was running the yard didn't want to give it up.
But where's all this loyalty people talk about? Gangs are so loyal. They're so loyal. They're so loyal.
You have a lot of loyal people, but you also have a lot of punk-ass motherfuckers that would do anything to get you out of position.
Yeah.
You do have that. And people may think they doing good, by doing that. They may think you fucking up the program. They may think they was doing a good program till you got there. Now you at war with other factions. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like it must create a lot of paranoia.
Yeah. Being high up in the gang is, you're watching your back the whole time, And Larry, when he realized that some of his fellow gang members were ratting on him, he was like, you know what? I'm done with this shit.
My mentality was, I'm tired. This act has been played out. I told myself that I have to remove myself from these level 4s to give myself an opportunity to breathe, to see a little bit more light away from politics. I knew that there was a person that was screaming to get out, but just couldn't remove the mask that I was wearing for so many years.
Larry also realized that if he didn't lead a gang, he was never going to get out of prison. And when he went to his parole board, basically that's what they was telling him.
The commissioner said, the only way that this is going to happen, Mr. Davis, you have to leave that gang culture stuff alone. And then what really did it for me, he said, you have 400 pages of confidential information on you. It just did not jump in your files on its own. Only you know if it's true. And then he read some of the stuff, and it was all true. In my mind, I'm saying the only way they could know this stuff, it had to be somebody that was in the loop.
They had a 400-page dossier on him.
Yep, a lot of people were volunteering information. When something's been such a big part of your life, what do you replace that with? Like, say, for instance, the Crips being that, just your whole shit since forever.
So what you replace it with is a different belief system. And I replaced it with things that was more conducive towards me starting to love myself. And so one of the things was, do I love the Crips more than I love my son? And that was a definite no.
We're going to pause right here for a quick break. When we come back, Larry fills me in on his son and the struggles he's been going through.
We'll be right back.
So when Larry was out, he and his girlfriend had a kid. And then he went back to prison and ended up doing 27 years. How old was he when you left?
He was 18 months old.
And what was your relationship? Just fun?
Yeah, I mean, it was me, man. I was his dad. He was my pride and joy, But and as dysfunctional as that may sound, because I was committed to the streets, but the moments we spent together, I was completely dedicated to him, loved him with all of my heart.
But then when Larry's son was 16 years old, he got injured pretty bad.
My son had been involved in running with a group of individuals that used to fight one another recreationally. And somehow it turned out that they jumped on him and damaged his brain. And so that affected him and his development as a young adult.
Oh, so he was totally different
from the way I used to know him as a teenager. He was jubilant, active, spontaneous. He was a regular teenage boy growing up. After the incident happened, he became isolated, depressed, and standoffish. He wasn't the young man that I knew.
Oh, God, that is heartbreaking. How old's Larry's son now, and how's he doing?
He's 28. He don't acknowledge people that ain't, in his circle, like his mother. Because he stay in the house. He don't go out. He stays sheltered, and that's what that brain injury has done to him.
Does Larry feel horribly guilty about all of that?
Definitely, because he missed out, wasn't there to, help rear his child.
And honestly, it's hard to know what he can do to change it. I mean, he can't physically change what the kid's going through.
No, and I don't think Larry understood when he was in prison how serious this injury was and how much his kid needed him, even now. Fatherhood is a learning curve, and especially when you've never done it before. It's like that morning when he first got out, I went and picked him up. We went and had breakfast. Then I brought him back to KQED. We sat here, did an interview, which took some time. And that whole time, he was supposed to be headed home to his son because he had to drive to Southern California.
Oh.
He didn't get home until about maybe 9, 10 o'clock that night, and his son...
And his son was waiting for him?
His son was waiting for him. So for the kid, it was a big disappointment.
His mother had told him the whole time that your dad is on his way home. I had been down for 27 years, so he had got dressed and everything. He was happy, waiting for me to come home. And I got out at 9 o'clock, and then we ran into the interview for 3.5 hours. I had to drive all the way from Frisco to San Bernardino. So when I got home, it was almost 9 o'clock. So he was in the bed, man. I wore him out, man. So when I got there, he was disappointed, really. I went into his room. And for the first time, I was in the presence of my son that I hadn't seen in almost like 12 years. And as he was laying in the bed, man, I was like, this is unbelievable, man, that I had asked God for this opportunity, man, to be around my son. Here he was laying in the bed with his face embedded in the bed and not looking up at me, covers over his head, man. I'm telling him, son, you know, I'm home. And he said, I'm asleep. I'm asleep. So I said, oh, he mad. So I asked his mother, I said, what's happening? She said, he mad because you didn't come, you know, when he expects you to come. So I tried to explain to him what had happened. And I told him, I said, man, I'm going to give him his space, you know, because one of the things you learn in prison, man, is respect a person's space. So I knew he was going through some stuff right there. I had disappointed him all his life, and here it was again, you know, the day of which could have been the best day of my life, and I don't know if it would have been the best day of his, but he was disappointed in me, and so that taught me something too, man.
Oh, I don't like that story.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I wonder if the kid will open up to him more and more.
That's his plan, is just to be there nonstop. He's, you know, there every day. I think it's getting better for him. And
I mean, he can't mess up. Do
no,
you know
he
what I mean?
can't.
Like,
He can't.
Sleep? Yeah. How you sleep? You answer me. I'm sleep.
Larry's son wasn't up for an interview, but Larry shot a little bit of video of the two of them together, and he sent it to me.
No, that's just some of the stuff you like.
When I first came home, and I should leave, and he wouldn't question me leaving. But today, every time I leave, he asks me where I'm going, when I'm coming back. So our relationship is building.
Cereal, pistachios, beef jerky. Oh, you like that? Yeah. Beef jerky, pistachio.
And that's warm to me because when I leave and I go out into the streets, whether it be for working, shopping, whatever the case may be, I always am reminded if I don't make it back, I'm gonna break my son's heart. And so I do the stuff out here in the streets that I do to make sure that I make it back home where I can be with my son each and every day. And my dog.
Your new dog.
Yeah, my new dog.
does he live with his son and the mom?
No, he's in the transitional house right now. So once he come out the transitional house, that's where he go.
Do you know his son? Have you ever met him?
No. You know, and because his son is not like in great shape right now, you know, Larry's just trying to be an inspiration, you know. Even though he's a 60-year-old man, you know what I'm saying, he wants to try and be that role model for his son.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do 10 push-ups so he could see me do 10 push-ups every morning. Because he used to do a lot. He don't do any no more. So when I come back from work, I ask him, did you do your push-ups today? And he said, yeah. I said, how many did you do? He'll say, I did 2. So I know he didn't do any, right? Because he won't do them in front of me.
So, I mean, clearly Larry's holding himself accountable when he's thinking about his son and the harm he did to him by not being there and being able to protect him. But Earlonne, I have to say, I don't hear him talking very much about what he needs to be accountable for when he was an active gang member. You know, I'm sure he hurt a lot of people during that time, but I don't really hear him addressing that.
You know, some people either, you know, put it behind them. Mm-hmm. Some people are ashamed of it. Sometime in the gang culture, you don't bring up shit if other people weren't there. You know, maybe if all of us were sitting here and we was crime partners to what he was doing, then we'll have an open conversation. But if we weren't there, you know, ain't no need for us to even know.
So there's still a little bit of the gang mentality there.
You know, I mean, I would have to think about, you know, myself too in that, you know, I don't talk about all the shit that I've been through, all the stuff that I've done in my life. I know. Don't never expound on that shit.
Every once in a while you allude to something I'm like, oh, there's a layer I don't know about.
Yeah, because a lot of it you just don't want to bring up old shit. It's old shit, you know, I'm moving forward. And some of it could, you know, it could look unfavorable to me, you know, like, damn.
Yeah, but do you think there's also a part for you or for Larry is you just don't want to accept that you did some of the things that you did because they're pretty awful?
Is accepting it just expounding on it to people? Is that accepting?
I don't know. It just comes down to what is accountability? I don't really know. I don't know if people have to dredge up all the terrible things they've done. Or do we just base how we understand them through their current actions? I'm not sure. It's an interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to think about, Nige, and I know we hear a lot of stories about guys getting out and changing their ways, but Larry sticks out. I mean, I don't know anyone whose circumstances has changed as much, before versus after prison than this cat. Larry, walking away from something you have so much respect in, to just walk away from it, to do the job.
What is he doing now?
So now he works at a hotel. And he worked at different hotels. They send him to different hotels. One might be in Santa Monica. One might be in Venice Beach,
So like an entry-level job.
It's his first job in his life.
Holy shit. That's right. It's his first official job.
It's his first official job, and he really loves working.
Back then, when I woke up in the morning, my agenda was to hurt people, to destroy people, be the most vile person that I could possibly be as a Crip, because I was trying to establish myself. Whereas today, I wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm in a transitional home, I get on a Metro Link. I had to take 3 different trains to get to Santa Monica, Hollywood, or Venice Beach, depending on where they send me to do my job. And so I'm an ordinary, normal person today, man. I'm living in a whole different world than I came from.
And how does that feel?
It's challenging at times because certain things I still see and others that would trigger me. And I have to remind myself that I'm disconnected from that. For instance, I'm on a Metro Link and people cutting in front of you, stepping on your feet, just being blatantly disrespectful from the perspective of a gang person or somebody in prison. You would look at that and say to yourself, you ain't gonna apologize, you're not gonna say, excuse me. But this person, they do this every single day and they don't view it in that light. So those instances like that make me want to just get up and just beat this person into a pulp. Because that's the way in which we, as Crips, was able to obtain control over people.
Do you smile when it happened?
Yeah, I just look at it, man, and say, I'm in a whole different way of thinking and feeling, and just proud of myself that I'm not associated with that kind of thinking no more, man. And I'm just happy, man. I just look at the trees, the leaves, man, the dirt, and I just see something completely different than I did in the past, man.
I think, with me, I know they don't mean no harm. So I brush it off. I understand the mindset where, you scuff my shit. I'm taking it personal that you meant to do that. But the average person don't mean to do anything, They just trying to get somewhere fast and ain't thinking about you. In most cases, some people don't mean harm. In some cases, you're dealing with mental health issues. It's just like Larry's going to always have Lala in him. He is Lala, right? But you know how to control that shit today. You know what I'm saying? And this ain't a situation where I'm going to fuck off my freedom for somebody else because of the way they feel it. I think I just think of the consequences today as opposed to in the past, I didn't give a shit.
But I would say those people have no idea. Like you step on that guy's shoes, he's ignoring you, but it could go very different.
It could go, in them days.
Yeah.
It was serious. You step on oh my God, you don't say, excuse me? I'm going to take that as a form of disrespect. You saying, fuck me.
Yeah. But you just realize there's potential fights that could break out all the time if people didn't control themselves or they haven't grown or learned. But they probably look at Larry, he's like an older guy.
Right.
Kind of meekly going to work. But they don't know that Lala is in there.
People don't know. Okay, Nige, there's one more piece of tape I want to play for you. Because, I know a lot of people may wonder, when you leave a gang, what happens to your relationship with your fellow gang members?
Totally.
Well, with Larry, back when Larry was still in prison, his mom passed away. And which was not too long ago. It was just maybe a year and some change ago. And I had been out of prison. So I ended up going to the funeral.
Right.
And I went down there, seen a few of the fellas.
Wow.
some of these guys were still in the gang.
Mm-hmm. And they're like, we're talking 50, 60-year-old guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though some of them are still active in the Crips and Larry is not, they still showed up.
My name is Brian Caber, a.k.a. Quake, and I'm like big brother.
Charles Caber, that's my brother, Lala. Miss here, a lot of respect representing Miss Davis. Go back from when we was kids.
My name is Donnell, the Snake, Lil Snake. I'm one of his little road dogs. We ran the streets together, had a lot of fun.
So these are a lot of Larry's childhood friends.
I note all the monikers.
Yeah, Lil Snake, Quake.
Yeah.
Quake was one person that Lala looked up when he was a kid because Quake is older. Lil Snake was like Lala's road dog.
Yeah.
They ran the streets together.
My name is Maurice Mitchell. Bam. Lala is my brother. We grew up together. Went to school together. You know, I wish he could be here, you know.
Yeah, we come in his steed, because that's our brother, and that's his mom's. He's a mom to us too. So, we have to be here, for him to represent and let him know, hey, he got representatives here, even though he can't be here. So we here.
So, a lot of his friends came together to send his mother off in the righteous way. They paid for the funeral, the after repast, all that, So she had a nice home going.
Wow. So they did stick by him in some way, like in an important way.
Yeah, they definitely showed up for him.
Oh, we do what he would do if he was here, you know what I mean? Because he would do the same for us. He would be involved in laying our mother to rest. We brothers. So that's what brothers do, you know what I'm saying? We was hoping our brother come on home soon.
I love my mother so much, man. And just to see the support of the community with which I was raised, support her and represent her in that light, I just thought about what she would have said. And it just moved me, man. When I find the time to sit down and have conversations with my mother, I'm going to tell her about that. Moms, if you could have just seen the Crips at your funeral, you would have been proud of my destructive behavior. People supported her, man, paid for the funeral, gave her a send-off, man, that was just so spectacular, man. And it wasn't done in criminality. It was done out of love.
So Larry just got out, and it's only been a few months. And it sounds like he is not going to go back to the Crip life. So he's not going to be living that life that some of those guys at the funeral are still living.
Right.
But what do you think about his future? I mean, what is he going to be doing?
It's funny you should ask this, Nige, because I definitely asked him that question.
Glad you did that.
20 years from now, I'll be an old man, hopefully content with the efforts that I put forth to change my life, making contributions and making a difference in someone's life. I just hope for me that I'm in a place where there's a lot of children that I'm teaching, because I like to box, and I think that is a mental challenge that makes you strong, give you discipline. So I want a foundational school, and me just sitting there, man, just basking in evolution, growth, discipline, and me making a contribution in that kind of light. I'm not looking for the beach setting, the materialism, all of that stuff. I've done that stuff. I'm looking for happiness, peace, love, just humbleness. Just somewhere where I can sit down and say, man, I did my very best. And it turned out to be okay.
Cool to catch up on Larry. Well,
Yeah.
cool to catch up on Larry, who was Lala and now is Larry again.
He's back Larry again.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I didn't pry or peep into this, but I definitely did not know this was going to be it. So you definitely surprised me.
Okay.
Definitely surprised me.
See, we got one over. We got
You
one
definitely
over.
did. And it took the Crocasacks
Crocasacks.
Spark the memory. So
I might have to get me a pair.
ooh, I want to see you here in the studio in some Crocasacks, E. But can they be Ear Hustle Crocasacks? And then can I get a pair?
Maybe they will. Maybe they will.
In the meantime, before those arrive, thanks for taking me on this journey with you. It was great.
Indeed. I'm glad we finally was able to put him in our book.
Okay, I'm glad about that. But what I'm extra glad about was just seeing what you did. It was very cool. And I'm excited for next season to try this again.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to come a little different next season.
All right.
L7 it.
Oh, you're dropping breadcrumbs already? Oh, my God.
My name is Larry Davis. I'm currently unemployed. I talked about how happy I was in the job that I had, but the workload became less demanding, so they laid me off. But the experience was a wonderful experience. I'm grateful. Ear Hustle is produced by Nigel Poor, Earlonne Woods, Amy Standen, Bruce Wallace, and Rasan New York Thomas. Shepnam Sigmund is the managing producer. The producing team inside San Quentin includes Darrell Sadiq Davis, Tony DeTrinidad, and Tom Wynn. The inside managing producer is Tony Tafoya. Thanks to Acting Warden Andis at San Quentin, Acting Warden Parker, and Lieutenant Newborg at the California Institution for Women for their support of the show. Thanks also to this woman here.
I am Lieutenant Giamari Berry, and I serve as the Public Information Officer here at San Quentin Rehabilitation Center, and I approve this episode.
This episode was made possible by the Just Trust, building a smaller, more humane engine of justice and safety across the country. You can also find out more about the show on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Ear Hustle SQ.
Earlonne Woods sound designs and engineers the show with help from Fernando Arruda, Harry Colhane, and Darrell Sadiq Davis.
Music for this episode comes from David Jossie, Antoine Williams, Darrell Sadiq Davis, and me, Earlonne Woods.
Want more Ear Hustle? Subscribe to Ear Hustle Plus.
We've got bonus episodes and Q&As with the whole team.
And E, didn't you catch up with someone recently for Ear Hustle Plus?
That's right. I caught up with someone that was in Rasan's episode, Transitional.
Right.
And it was Ismay, and basically just caught up on where she's at today, how she's living.
And if you want to hear that, subscribe at earhustlesq.com/plus or in the Apple Podcast app.
And while you're looking at your phone, make sure you never miss an episode. So hit that follow button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.
And leave us a review on the app of your choice, too. It helps others find the show.
Plus, I like to read them.
You do?
Yes. And one last piece of cool Ear Hustle news. We just launched the first phase of our high school curriculum.
Yes, yes. Each lesson plan was developed around an Ear Hustle episode by teachers volunteering their time and expertise. Earlonne, we gotta love the teachers.
Man, it's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at earhustlesq.com/curriculum and let us know what you think.
Big thanks to all the teachers who are contributing their time and effort, and to Ariane Miller, our educational consultant.
Ear Hustle is a proud member of Radiotopia from PRX, a network of independent, creator-owned, listener-supported podcasts.
Discover audio with vision at radiotopia.fm.
I'm Earlonne Woods.
I'm Nigel Poor.
Thanks for listening.
No, this episode of Ear Hustle contains language.
This episode of Ear Hustle contains language and content
That may not be suitable for all listeners.
that may not be suitable for all listeners.
Discretion is advised.
Discretion is surely advised.
But you would damn sure get some game from this.
That's what they tell me.
Radiotopia from